So my playthrough of No Man's Sky seems to be a pretty popular series here on this channel. I mean, I'm seeing a ton of comments from you guys telling me that I should continue and that it's pretty fun. Yes, it's very fun, not soul crushing at all and all of that. But anyway, in today's video we're gonna try to continue the series into episode 3. Now for those who didn't get a chance to see what happened in the previous 2 episodes, well, here is a small little recap. We basically found ourselves crashed on some random planet, immediately started exploiting it, as well as literally every alien that dared to cross our path, to the point that we kind of became this soulless, filthy, rich billionaire who didn't do anything all day long. I mean, after making my 100 mil, I was kinda letting my life spiral out of control, to the point that I kinda became this fat piece of lard who didn't do anything all day long outside of sitting his ass on the couch, watching TV and smoking on some of that gagnip. I mean, who'd have thought that living like a drug lord leads to a life of agony and abuse? So here was the point when I decided that all of this needed to change. Well, that and the fact that I wasn't even able to outrun the most basic of predators anymore without dying from exhaustion. So I decided to do what any sane person in my situation would do in this case, and that is becoming Batman, literally Batman. I wanted to create my own Batcave, so that is exactly what I started doing. Of course, in order to do that, I had to erase my past and of course all of the evidence that I was a drug lord, so I had to scrap my mega facility and delete the base, unfortunately. I mean, how else would I be able to prove my moral high ground through vigilantism if there was proof of my illegal activities? Once that was done, I was ready to move on, so I went into the nearest space station because I needed to start prepping for my future base, which is why I bought the entire oxygen supply over there. I mainly need this in order to break it down into carbon because screw mining trees. I'm also pretty sure that me buying the entire oxygen supply of the market pretty much left the space station without any oxygen for the other aliens, so psych! But I was ready to move ahead. I already prepped quite a lot of stuff up. I had a ton of warp cells for the long journey ahead, which was all in vain because no more than 2 system warps later I kind of found the perfect system, if you can believe that. There's a lot of strange coincidences in this playthrough, but I assure you it is 100% legit. So I went in, I started checking out the planets, and lo and behold, I found a paradise planet. But then on a closer inspection I realized that there's actually 2 of these planets in the same system, 2 very similar to one another, both in the layout as well as the color. Of course, the paradise planet had a beautiful weather, which pretty much means that there's almost no storms going on. Meanwhile, the other one featured some choking humidity, and because I love choking so much, I decided to pretty much settle on it. Well, that and the fact that it featured these huge pillars that were kind of the perfect fit for my suspended Batcave. But that is exactly what I did. A few perfect landings later, and I did manage to find the perfect one, very close to a beach. So if I ever wanted to extend this into, let's say, an underwater base, which let's be honest, I'm not because I'm too lazy, I now have the possibility of doing that. So the next step was to find the suitable location for my base computer, and I somehow had the genius idea of trying to place that base computer on the side of the goddamn mountain. I mean, look at the genius go. Yeah, good job, dude. But eventually Einstein over here finally realized that it's better to place it somewhere else, which is why I placed it at the top, on the edge, not in the middle, on the freaking edge. I also somehow named it Future Batcave because that is the level of creativity you can expect from this channel. But eventually I started digging into the middle section of this thing, so I kind of made this nice little gap over here that gave me a rough idea of where my future cave would be placed into. Once I decided that this was the proper level I wanted to be into, I pulled out my flattening terrain tool and started flattening the entire thing. And I started fitting in my platform, my landing platform, to see exactly how well a ship would fit inside of it. Spoilers alert, it doesn't, and eventually I did have to pull it on the outside and have the ship land over there. I'm pretty sure that if you make it big enough you can land the ship inside, but in this case I tried making it much bigger and it didn't help too much. But what was left was to start adding those walls, so I added a few walls in the back. I've placed them down exactly where I kind of wanted the back of my cave to be into, where all of the stuff is going to be placed into. I also reinforced some of the walls behind it because what I was doing was basically breaking off the entire thing, and then I came in with the second level of walls so that I have more room to work with. Of course, all of these were pretty much surrounded. I had to build everything around it, also regenerating the terrain whenever I felt like like it was ruined too much. This is also when I created the second floor, and I needed this, well, I'm not really sure why, but I kind of remember that vaguely from the Batcave that there was a second floor above the computer area, so I also built that as well. Eventually this all came across really nicely, and I started working on the stairs because, well, you kind of have to climb down from the mansion all the way into the Batcave, which in this case there's no mansion and it's kind of in suspended in this thing. But I did build a bunch of stairs over here, and they were pretty nicely, so I've placed down a couple of these half walls to guide myself, also a platform in the middle so that I can create some beautiful staircase. And yeah, once it was done, it looked pretty much like this. I was pretty happy with it, so what I did is I went at the top and put in some rails, well, mainly for Alfred's sake, in case he brings me a cup of tea or whatever and just falls off the stairs. So yeah, that's there for his protection. I also regenerated some of the other walls as well in there. As you can see right now, it's kind of like a perfect tunnel, so that is exactly what I liked about it. And yeah, this is how it all looked once I placed everything, including the platform, the landing platform, inside of the actual cave. So what I had to do from this point on was to actually put it to the test, and it basically ran out like this. Now around this time I started panicking because I haven't saved my game in about at least half an hour, and I was about to lose all of my progress. But luckily enough, somehow my ship managed to dislodge from all of that, and I was able to land it successfully on the ground. So I was back to square one. I was trying to figure this thing out. I kept remaking the walls of the base as well, trying to bring them a little bit more up so that the ship can fit in. Unfortunately, this also didn't work, mainly because the game was still detecting that there is an obstacle in the way. So what I did eventually was to just build a nice little road over here that would eventually lead to the actual platform, and the platform would otherwise be on the outside of the cave, which in my opinion came in as a much better result, and I already liked it. After a nice little initial test over here, it looked like everything worked just fine, so I started creating the walls of the base, because this was quite an important thing that I needed to do, as I wanted to regenerate the structures, the walls over them. So that is exactly what I did in the front. I also did this in the back, about like 3 or 4 layers of these outer walls. So now that all of this was into place, it was time to regenerate again all of that terrain all the way back over the walls themselves, and it came in really nicely. I actually like the results over here. It was a pretty easy job, and I could regenerate all of this back exactly how it was, only leaving a small little gap where the entrance actually is. So quite a nice feat, I might say. So this already starts to look like a really nice base. Inside, I pretty much continued with the same idea. I've built these outer walls, the supporting walls, and over them I brought in the terrain that I wanted. Eventually there was a nice little gap on both sides of this road right here, so because I wanted to have that cave aspect, I started regenerating a small part of the terrain to make it look like it had these pillars, these stalactites and stalagmites that kind of make it really look like that Batcave. It kind of really reminds me of that, and I really like the results over here. Also, the rails that I eventually set on these roads made a nice separation between them and the rest of the cave. I also created the display window for my costumes, my future costumes, and there's a bunch of statues in the shop that you can buy in order to use them as props that kind of look like, you know, Batman outfits or that kind of stuff. The props in this case were of course the big screens, so what I did is I placed 2 at the top. They looked pretty freaking cool. I mean, look at this, the ultimate gaming setup 2020. Of course I also set up a desktop, made it slightly bigger, and then also placed further 3 of these screens on it, so it now looks kind of like a computer, touch screen computer, and also some big screens at the top where Batman, in this case, well, me, looks at the news and, you know, just runs a background check on all of those criminals or whatever. From this point I moved on to the left side right next to the staircase and placed down a number of devices, including of course the customizer for my character, and this was quite a nice location for it with the walls going on and everything. And then I also set up the teleporter right here in the back, as I found this location to be quite suited. But since I was talking about those costumes, in this case the statues, I needed Quicksilver for that. These would cost about 1200 Quicksilver Quicksilver to get all 3 variants, but luckily enough I had just the mission for that, so I grabbed this, quickly done it, and came back to the same NPC to purchase these statues, went in back on my base and actually set these up really nicely. It kinda became a nice little display window over here, kinda nice cosplay I might say so. So from this point on I just continued placing down props, including of course a ton of robotic arms, a lot of robotic other stuff in there as well. I also set up this nice lab right next to my main computer because I don't know, it just looks awesome. I also placed this thing in the middle section right here, not entirely sure what this is, but it kind of looks like the kind of stuff that would qualify as a map, but you know, eventually I'm gonna actually replace it with a proper map. So far it looks pretty nice. I also set down some servers because Batman needs servers to run all of this, so the best place to put these down was this. Kinda used it as a wall as well to split the 2 sections. It was a pain in the butt, by the way, to place this down. It was the toughest thing to do in this entire base, as it was pretty hard to actually match these up, but eventually it all came in surprisingly nice. So on the other side, right next to the customizer, I set up a nice little lounge area. I'm pretty much in love with this place because it looks so damn cool, and I even set up a nice little table and some lights going on to make it really cozy. I mean, it's going to be really cozy really soon. I also placed down one of these screens in the middle right here at the top of this contraption, and this was also a pain in the butt to actually set up because I had to shift it around quite a bit, but it did end up looking pretty damn cool. And what was left was to just light up the entire thing, so I started placing all of these lights, but of course in order to light all of this up I did need some electricity, so I extended the platform outside and placed a few of these solar panels, and they came in really nicely. I really like the way they fitted in this case. Also brought in all of those cables, tried to hide them as much as possible, especially making use of the space at the bottom. I can hide a lot of stuff at the bottom and not have anything too visible, so that is exactly what I did. Eventually I pulled in the cable in the base to one of these lights that I was able to set on the outer wall, and it all came in really nice, all blended, and you cannot see anything. So what was left in this case was to just pull in the cables inside. Now most people do like to hide all of their cables and not see anything, but in my case I do like to see some of that as long as it's properly set, especially since it kinda acts like some RGB strips, so that is exactly what I proceeded to do. You don't have to put in too much work in order to pull these in a straight line, so I did this with the entire base. But anyway, this is exactly how my base looks like right now. Of course I did a lot of changing up. I customized all of these parts. I give it a better color that is better fitted for a Batcave, but inside the main area this is how it all looks up. As you can see, the main computer is over there with this base thingy over here that looks pretty damn sweet. Another screen because, well, we love screens and all of that. This is like my favorite area right here. I just love these screens and how big they are and how cool this RGB is. Also the laboratory over here with the arm a little bit smaller with the lights going on. Some vents in there as well because, well, vents are important. I mean, you need oxygen and you need well, your farts to go out and all that kind of stuff, so I think it's pretty fitting. The wiring is also quite well placed, I might say so. Oh, and by the way, I also covered this entire thing right here with these standing planters, or what are even these, whatever. Yeah, these plant thingies look cool because, well, there's a lot of neon in them and I like that kind of stuff, and it also cools my armors, by the way. And these are the armors, as you can see, quite nice on the display, but for some reason somebody has stolen one of them. Also used some other decals in here to make it look a little bit better. My weapons, of course, makes use of these decals as well. I also placed down some props because, well, if I am playing as Batman I kinda need a lot of industrial stuff going on that yeah, is needed in a Batcave. Also placed a few here beneath the stairs, so it looks a little bit more immersive. And there's a wall here that I'm eventually going to break, and I'm going to create an additional area for storage, but I'm gonna leave that for something else. I also placed in the lounge area right here, the servers as well, because it makes so much sense to place a freaking sofa near some heating servers. That definitely makes sense. Cloth near heat definitely isn't a choking fire hazard or whatever. But I did end up liking the way it looked like. I mean, it looks cozy. These red lamps for some reason make everything so cinematic and cool. Covered everything up with standing planters and other props, and put down everything else that you see right here. Yeah, you're probably also noticing these lights. I needed the lights mainly so that the scene looks a little bit better lit up, so that is also nice. But more important of them all, I did leave some room over here for a different type of, let's just say, room. I'm gonna leave this for a different video, but this is pretty much perfect for a penthouse. I think this looks absolutely amazing, and I can just see the outside. I can see my power facility over there as well. I just need to build this area as well. But yeah, this has been it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you did, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.